Your favorite guns are getting nerfed and some obscure guns are getting buffed. How will this change the current state of meta? Are we delving deeper into yet another unbalanced ranked season, or is this the first season of a truly open meta where things are balanced in relation to each other? Let's analyze the season 7 balance changes and what the next season holds for us. The balance changes are provided all thanks to Jason and Hawk, and the stats are provided by our Gunsmith Elves research team and of course Mr. Roy. Starting with Fennec, I'll agree it was statistically unbalanced, but it did not warrant receiving such harsh nerfs. Recall got nerfed on an already high recall weapon, so uncontrollable for some people that they preferred using the MX9 over Fennec. Some people cannot use the Fennec right now because they run out of screen space for controlling the recall, and here we are making recall worse on an already high recall weapon. Just perfect. Nerfing both the bullet spread accuracy and hip fire is another bad decision. Splinter fires utter trash on Fennec. You will need to use the hip fire laser and stippled both to make the STF playable, and what little hip fire we had which could help us for the delayed reaction speed is gone now. Fennec will be having similar hip fire like the other weapons while having worse reaction speeds. Why use Fennec when MX9, which is already being used this season, is going to be even better next season? BSA is another thing. The attachments we use are all BSA negative attachments like rubberized grip, stippled, the barrel, mono, no stock, light stock, etc. All the good attachments we need to use for the Fennec mess with the BSA. Thus the base BSA isn't good enough to cross-map people, and with this BSA nerf, whatever little chances we had for playing mid-range is gone. Even if you can control the recoil, your shots simply won't connect with the enemy. Damage range nerf is the only viable nerf, as 16 meter range stuck out a bit, and having it around 14 meters will be balanced without ruining the weapon. And honestly, Fennec only needed this nerf. All of the other changes you see aren't worth implementing. We are not trying to balance the Fennec, not at all. We are merely ruining this weapon so people won't even bother using the Fennec anymore. If anyone from the COD Mobile team is watching this video, rethink the nerfs again. There is a difference between moderation and going overboard, and making guns balance needs moderation. And I'm not trying to hate on COD Mobile, not at all. This is constructive criticism, as my channel is based around their game and I want the game to succeed too. If they are going haywire with the decision making, giving them some direction via constructive feedback is viable, as my intentions are for the best. HS0405 is another buff which does not make sense. HS0405 was already top tier in multiplayer, and it was the only shotgun used in Battle Royale for its consistency, and in multiplayer it was much more consistent than KRM in getting the one shot one kill. This is why people used it, and Global used it more since it was easy to use and got the job done. This buff will make the HS statistically better than KRM, and this buff isn't needed. What is the point in buffing an already good weapon, making it unbalanced in the process? Buff the KRM too if you're going to buff the HS, as they were really similar to each other, and now one will lag behind. All the essential shotgun stats like hipfire spread, ADS spread, and sprints to fire, all of them are getting buffed, and reload time is just icing on the cake. Holger's undergun, which they are hell-bent on ruining like they're doing it to the Fennec. Talking of the base stats, it's an LMG which is mainly used for long-range sprays, where flinch matters, so why nerf that? Base areas did not need a nerf as it was already slow, and the main changes that are needed were nerfing attachments like the no stock, which had ridiculous 40% ADS movement speed buff, and MAC conversions which made the gun better in terms of ADS speed and mobility. Why target the base stats unnecessarily when it was the attachments which made the Holger good? Instead of nerfing the 40% ADS movement speed on the no stock, we are nerfing 3% to the base. Compare 40% to 3%. And the damage range was 25 meter 4 shot, which was good and it wasn't overpowered. And again, that is getting nerfed. Apart from the base stats, the attachments are also being nerfed further. I hope these nerfs are only in the test server and the final official release is better. HVK is another gun which does not make sense. The range is already huge and we can 4-shot kill cross map on maps like standoff with the large caliber ammo. Rather than buffing the range, we needed range nerf, or the current 24 bullets should be made around 20. This way we either have good range and less bullets, or a bit less range but with more bullets. And HVK will be the go-to weapon for main AR role or roles which require long range precision. Reload time buff is fine, but HVK needs to be adjusted while nerfing. It does not need buffs. Anyway, those were some questionable balance changes. We actually got some good balance changes too, so let's take a look at them. Taking a quick moment to remind you to leave a like and also a comment to help support the video. MX9 only got hipfire nerf. It wasn't really needed as builds use agile stock and that nerfs the hipfire already. So we are not getting good hipfire performance either way, which warranted getting a nerf. GKS is seeing a buff, which is high time as they ruin this beautiful weapon in past like they are doing it to the Fennec, Holger, etc. now. We are getting enhanced bolt perk which will make our fire rate around 685 rounds per minute and give us a 4-shot kill of 263 milliseconds, but it will nerf our range which was 20 meters to around 18.5 meters after the nerf, and also nerf our damage. Overall, this attachment will be a must-have, but the range nerf makes the GKS challenge other guns like Fennec, MX9, QQ9 and these aggressive SMGs. It also does not help that the BSA is utter trash on GKS, so we cannot use it for range at all, and ADS speed is slow and overall mobility is also slower in comparison to these aggressive SMGs. And if we were to boost the range by using mono or marksman, then our already slow ADS speed and mobility will end up being even more slower. They tried to do something to the GKS, but I'm not sure what they are trying to do. The first change that GKS needs is a BSA buff. Why is that not implemented yet? A lot of these balance changes seem aimless, like as if the CODM developers don't have a vision for the future, how they envision the weapons to be, why we have these kinds of wacky balance changes. Razorback is getting a buff to fire rate, and this small of a buff won't make any difference, so I wouldn't call it a buff as practically our time to kill remains unchanged. On the contrary, for getting no buff, we actually receive a nerf to our range, and our 16 meter range is 15 meter now, and we have less damage as well. 15 meter range is prime area for aggressive SMGs, and with using the Razorback, we are at a disadvantage. Similar scenario as GKS. Why nerfing the range and making these weapons play against Fennec, QXR, QQ9, MX9 and all of these aggressive SMGs? And since the buff is nothing, why even nerf the Razorback in the first place? It was fine and it did not need any changes. Shotty is getting nerfed as well, and we have overall damage range nerf as well as nerf to the Marauder suppressor and get slight buff to the ADS bullet spread. Honestly, Shotty needed adjustments to the drop times as it was instant 0 milliseconds, and this should have been made a normal number, and instead of damage range should have nerfed the ADS bullet spread, so our effective range would have automatically dropped as we won't get the one shot one kill consistently at range. QXR is getting a damage buff after being ruined in season 5 balance changes, and 23 damage is good as it guarantees a 5-shot kill hitting all leg shots with 240 milliseconds time to kill, so QXR is getting some utility back in the aggressive SMG meta. DRH is getting yet another BSA buff. It received a BSA buff in season 6 update, and now we can actually use mono on the DRH without any problems, and it will receive another BSA buff now. And apart from that, we are getting recall buffs, which isn't needed as DRH recall is very easy to control, and for these changes 10% of our hipfire is nerfed. My most used gun in past, the AK-47 545, is getting buffs, and this is overall nice, and we will see more of this gun being used. Apart from this, we also have more bullets in 545, but the downsides are a bit heavy compared to only getting 6 extra bullets. Why? I will use the 30 round 545 mag as it will be a better option, and the mag got some changes to the penalties. So overall, it's a win-win for the AK-47 545, and these changes were much needed as AK-47 got nerfed in past. Why we need the buff now? M4LMG is also getting some changes, and I cannot comment on it because I haven't used the M4LMG that much, and as a reason I don't have an informed opinion on this weapon. But I just hope the M4LMG is good and the AR and SMG conversions are nice. M16 buff is good too. The gun lacked consistent time to kill at range, mainly due to the bullet spread due to the burst of this weapon, and we needed to stack recoil control attachments for using it better. The third bullet being lower will be nice to have, and we might see M16 being used more for passive ranged builds, and the flinch buff is cherry on the cake. AK-117 is finally getting a worthwhile buff after so many seasons, and we have 237 milliseconds time to kill till 9 meters now, so they are gearing the 117 towards anti-SMG playstyle, which it was already being used for. 117 is mainly used for close to mid-range playstyle, and the changes seem good. Flinch at 15% may be a bit too much, but the rest seems fine. The fire rate nerf is inconsequential, don't even worry about it. Russ is the SMG version of 117, and it is also getting a similar treatment, and we have 234 milliseconds time to kill till 7 meters now. And the Russ is also more versatile with mono and 50 mag option, thus we might see the Russ being used more this season. ASVAL received some nerfs. We have slower movement and reload speed with the large extended mag, and we also have more vertical recoil now. 10% bullet speed won't matter since we will use it in the close to mid ranges where 10% won't make a difference, and in return we have 16% flinch, so overall this is a nerf to the ASVAL. Type 25, the ASVAL alternative, will get the spotlight this season, and we are getting some attachment buffs, BSA buffs, and also recoil buff. And on top of that, we have 35 round stopping power mag, which will be used more as 30 rounds is quite less. So will the Type 25 be back like the OG days? We will need to wait and see. Still watching? Don't forget to share this video around in your Discord and social media so other people can also enjoy this content. S36 got some changes, and I haven't used the S36 enough to offer any feedback, but the horizontal recoil was bad on the weapon and the horizontal recoil buff was needed, so it's good to see that being implemented, and the rest seems alright. ASM recoil is directly proportional to the BSA, thus instead of buffing the recoil, it would have been better to buff the BSA instead. We are also getting 30 round fast mag, which is a good attachment, and most builds which are using the 33 mag right now will switch to that instead. ICR also got an overall buff, and the recoil is very easy on it, and 5% won't change anything on it, but the buffs on the contrary are good for playing it as a ranged weapon. Man-O-War received some changes. They are not much but appreciated nonetheless, although the recoil buff wasn't needed as the Man-O-War has simple recoil. HPR3 got some inconsequential changes, and you won't notice it in your gameplay. The buffs are too less to make a difference, and the same thing is with the AMAX. They mix up the recoil buff though. HPR should have got the horizontal recoil buff, while the AMAX should have got the vertical recoil buff. But nonetheless, both of these guns have buffs which aren't worth talking about. KN-44 is getting horizontal recoil buff, which will be appreciated by some, but the gun with the most changes, LK24. LK24 is getting some major changes. We have BSA buff for starters, which was already good, and coupled with the beam recoil, we could cross map beam with the LK24 no issues, and this BSA buff will make that better. We have better hitbox too, the same as the KN-44. Both have chest hitbox now, and LK also got recoil buff, so there will be less horizontal recoil, and it also got a hipfire buff, so in close ranges you can just hipfire to save your life. If the BSA buff was not enough, attachments will affect the BSA less now, so we are indirectly getting double the BSA buff and for no nerfs. LK24 was already good. There was no point in having so many changes at once. And the main worry is that KN-44 will fall behind now. KN-44 and LK24 were similar since the day KN-44 got released around the OG Season 4, and this might be the season where LK24 takes over. I'm still hopeful that these are just rumors and all of these buffs aren't being implemented, but CODM has done some illogical balance changes, so my hopes are not too high, I guess. Those were the balance changes we saw, and they are leaked test server changes, so with the official version we might get a different set of changes, so we will need to look out for that. We did not get any changes for obscure guns like the FR556 or AGR, which will need a hitbox buff, and even the AMAX, which needs a hitbox buff at range. Nor did we see any buffs to the MSMC, which has been dead since the OG Season 3 when devs drove the final nail to the coffin. Nor did we see any changes to Kilo Marksman or the ASVAL semi-auto marksman, which lags behind SKS and the M67 of AMAX. Not even gonna mention the Chickum Devs seem to have forgotten this gun exists, and BY-15 also needs some buff, as with the HS buff it will be overpowered now, and KRM is already good, and BY will be lagging behind. UL LMG also needed a buff, we got nothing for it, and there are so many things left to do for achieving a proper and open balanced meta, but hopefully this is a start. If COD Mobile wants me to work on an in-depth blueprint for balance changes, do let me know, as I don't want to work on it pointlessly just for it to be ignored later. So give me a sign and I'll start working on the balance changes document. These changes are overall good. Some guns still need some adjustments like the Holger, Fennec, HS0405, HVK, etc. But overall they are nice. Do share this video around and help support the video by leaving a like and a comment, and I will see you on the next one. Till then, take care guys, and bye.